By introduction, my name is James Ododa. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Ndivisi Entreprises. We are an agro-processor based here in Nairobi. We process soybeans into the different byproducts that come out of it. We have come to learn that it's a very versatile oilseed. It's used in both feed and food. We started off as a trader a few years back in 2015. We traded for a couple of years, and our business was pretty simple. You buy in bulk, you sell in bulk. Along the way, we saw some gaps in the market where a few of our customers would either buy the soya for feeds, they pick the meal and they leave the oil. Some of the buyers would buy the soya, pick the flour, leave the other byproducts. And so along the way, with the advent of COVID, along the way, we also saw an opportunity to be able to add value along the way. And that resulted into the plant that you visited today, where now we set up our whole plant to sort of add value to that. So our plant serves both feed and food. We produce defatted soybean meal, defatted soya flours, and crude soybean oil. At the moment, this is the first level of value addition, and we serve local customers at the moment, working with farmers in Western Kenya partly, and other regions of Kenya like Meru, Central Kenya, and a larger portion from Uganda. From our trading days, we tried to source locally, and I'll be very honest with you, we could not fill 5% of our demand back in the day, 2016, 2017. However, along the way, we've seen an uptick as people or companies like ourselves have been able to set up locally. Maybe the gap has been the knowledge to the farmers in terms of available market. I am not sure whether that has changed significantly, but we have seen in the recent 2-3 years, our output as a country has slightly improved. Right now, our input from local farmers is somewhere in the regions of 20% from 5% a few years back. So we hope with the physical establishment that we have, we'll be able to encourage more farmers across the region, across the country, not only in Western Kenya, across the country to pick up. In terms of flour demand, we've seen that to be very significant as well. Right from the very onset, we had large corporate customers knocking on our doors to find out whether we are able to support their value chains with defatted soya flour specifically. That has been our experience for, I want to believe this is composite flour. For bakeries, on the other hand, they have largely focused on imports for some reason. They did not know this product is available locally, and we have made significant strides in trying to encourage a few more bakeries to consider local production. We've seen 3 large corporates so far. I think the top 3 bakeries in Kenya, they are at the moment using the same flour for the improver formulation. So we hope this will spur more of the demand locally. Soya is soya. The only difference in the varieties is either on the protein content or on the oil content. I'll give you an example. When you look at these 3 varieties, some are local, some are imported. So this is local, this is local, this is imported from Zambia. Now the difference between the 3 is the residual oil content. So you find oil in soya typically starts from 18% to regions of 23%. So depending on who is buying, they would choose a variety that serves them. So if I am an oil manufacturer, I'll go for a variety that has higher oil content in it because oil is my business. If, however, I am a meal customer, then I would want one that gives me higher protein content. Now, protein is determined by various aspects like the mass of the soya, the oil content of the soya, because all those are now affecting your processing conditions. How much oil can you remove? Now, in the whole country, there are 2 ways of processing soya. One is chemical extraction, and the other one is mechanical. which we employ. So mechanical, you can only press oil out of it so much. You can't press it fully. But for chemical, you can wash it out. There is only one factory that I know in Kenya that does chemical. I'm not sure whether they're still operational. But for mechanical, which we employ, now depending on which customer we are serving, we pick the variety that now fully suits whichever customer we are serving. So for example, if you're serving an animal feed customer, we'll focus on the protein more. All right? So we pick a variety that can give us a higher protein content. If we are serving other customers who want considerable higher volumes of oil, then we pick a variety that fits that. But our aim is to try and ensure that our farmers are able to produce a balanced seed variety that can offer all these properties throughout consistently. So demand from our experience has been relatively constant and growing. So as more customers get to know about us, the more inquiries and the more requirements we have for our output. So we've even find ourselves in a situation where that 12 tons per day is very small. Yeah? Some of the large corporates, the Ungas of this world, the Pembes of this world can consume whatever you produce alone as one customer. So we are also putting in place mechanisms in place to sort of double that capacity within the year. In terms of seasonality, like any other agricultural crop, soya is also seasonal. So you find that there are two seasons, those above the equator and those below the equator. So above the equator is Western Kenya and Uganda, below the equator is Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi. So their seasons tend to overlap. So when the Kenya-Uganda season is finishing, the southern ones are starting. So we've positioned ourselves in such a way that we work with farmers and partners across both regions such that we do not run out of raw material. Yeah, so that is how we have been able to maintain day-on-day production and just try and as much as possible to meet the demand that is there in the market. 12 tons is just a start. We see ourselves picking that up to 24, 48 tons a day as time goes by, as we also just stabilize in the market. As you can tell, we've been transitioning from a trading business to now a manufacturer. Manufacturing is a different ballgame altogether. So you need a bit of stability, you need a bit of traction, which now we are getting over time, and definitely we will grow those volumes as we go. We work with approximately 3,000 farmers in Western Kenya and partly in Uganda, where we pass along the know-how, the information, the good agronomical practices, season over season. We also do the same through our partners, where we engage on impact measurement matrices. Those who supply us, we encourage them because we give the feedback on which seed varieties work best for which product. So that feedback, when it goes back to whichever partner that we are working with, it is transmitted backwards to the farmer, such that the next season we do not repeat the same mistakes that we were facing in 2024, for example. So in 2025, with the feedback that we gave, we expect farmers to have gained a bit more knowledge and respond to market requirements in some way. The feed industry has high rates of substitution. However, we found that most feed manufacturers who highly substitute may not necessarily substitute the right ingredients like to like. So if you're looking to substitute a high protein content with another high protein content, we've seen instances where you're substituting a high protein content ingredient with a mid to low protein content. Well, it's a cost basis for them, so they want to be as low cost as possible. But I mean, low cost is not always nutritive. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So whenever prices go up, we find that feed customers tend to substitute. So you're left with so much product because it's slightly expensive, and they go to inferior products because they're trying to cut cost along the way. All right. So that is one. Two, we've seen instances where because of low production, low manufacturing capacity in Kenya, most of the demand locally in Kenya has been met by imports. So imports from the region, imports from as far as India for soybean meal. Yeah. So you find that in most cases, whoever gives those permits to import may not necessarily be aware that there are other local manufacturers on the ground who are able to, who just need a little bit of support to be able to meet the local demand. So whenever waivers are given on duties and taxes, and those imported products land at below the production capacity, you end up fighting or trying to survive because of 1-2 shillings, because feed business is very sensitive to very low margin. So it's a high volume, very low margin business. So those import dynamics, they at times put us in awkward positions whereby you have products but you can't sell because your cost of production is higher than whatever is coming in the market. So we look forward to a scenario where whenever this is happening, consideration is also put to local production, so that businesses like ours and any other can also thrive and add value. Large manufacturing businesses like this require large stable power. Solar can only supplement a part of it. You may not fully get rid of the grid because you need that stability in power. Products like soya need quite a high aspect of cooking, right? So we're always looking for creative ways to cook and ensure that the nutritive aspects of this wonderful oil is not denatured in any way, right? Because if you overcook, it's also a bad thing. If you undercook, it's also a bad thing, depending on what you do. So yes, solar will come in, but of course, being cognizant of the requirements of the manufacturer. So at the moment, the oil we have is in crude form. We're in the process of putting up a value addition line. But what we have at the moment, being crude, is able to serve our animal feed segment, specifically fish feed. Fish feed and broiler feeds. So they use this to pelletize. All right, so we serve some of the largest fish feed companies in Kenya. There's one in Naivasha, that is one. There are a few other poultry feeds in Thika and in Kikuyu side who use these now to pelletize their feeds. So for now, it is fully going for feed manufacturing.
Not human.
Not yet.
Purified it and all that for
it requires additional processing. That is also, it takes time and it's still work in progress on our side. So for now, it's crude form. As I mentioned to you at the beginning, we are the starting of value addition. So it's the very beginning of value addition where you get crude products that later on now we can add value and continue growing the business. I think one is to be a bit aware of the existence of new and upcoming manufacturers like ourselves. I'm sure we are not alone. There are a few others I've heard of, specifically on the feed side, such that when now such import waivers are being given, there's also consideration of local output or local capacity that first needs to be absorbed before an import gate is opened. All right? Two, put in place mechanisms in place such that the subsidy of fertilizers, for example, can also reach soya farmers. It's not only going to maize farmers. So there are other crops that can be supported, just other than maize. We focused so much on maize as a country that in some regions we've seen productivity going down. We know the importance of maize for both feed and food. However, there are other crops that are also important, like soya, sunflower, that we hope that support can be extended to the farmer to boost productivity, so that we do not rely so much on imported soybeans. We can buy local and buy regional.
And now this is about you. What has been a very rewarding part of running this business? You as a person, as the co-founder.
Wow. I'd say two things. We have seen the impact that additional income has on the farmers that we work with. All right? So a farmer toils for 3-4 months to get their bounty. However, the frustrations comes in when, yes, you've toiled for that period of time, and at the end of it all, you do not know where to take that product. All right? But now we've come to the aid or to provide a market for these farmers to always know that there's a market for their product at the end of the day. So it is both a cash crop that can support them on other life emergencies, whether education or whatever it is. They can earn an income out of it. So farming can be profitable for our farmers. Two, we have seen the impact that we have on employment just amongst ourselves. So before, when you were a trader, I was operating alone from my house. But now we have a strong team of 20 here directly that we work with. Indirectly, we work with another 20, 30 who come and go, depending on the volume of work. All right. So that impact alone is quite fulfilling for us. All right.
Creating jobs.
We are creating jobs. We are creating incomes for farmers.
Yeah.
Lastly, nutrition that comes out of this. It is very fulfilling to see a farmer who's bought a bag or two of soybean meal, and they come back the next time, they tell you, my milk yield has improved, or my productivity of my farm has improved. All right? Or you see a customer who's bought the flour, and they tell you their industrial application has improved, and they're buying more and more from you. All right? So it's not only we as founders of the business, but the impact that we have across, from farmers, from the staff that we have, and from the ingredients that we provide into the market, both for feed and food. Seeing that is quite fulfilling. We hope that we can do now more on a larger scale, even as we close the first year of operation. China is the largest consumer of soybeans. Yes. One of the largest consumers of soybeans. And they mostly, like 70-80% of their demand is filled by the US. Now, whenever there's a tariff, then it makes the US crop a bit expensive for China. So they look for alternatives. So they go to Brazil, Latin America, or any African country that has larger production. So we'll keep an eye out for those instances where tariffs have come across, because then the only way it affects us is when, if China or any other large, yes, they come to our ground to compete with us with whatever is available. So those are the only instances that we foresee. We don't know how that will go. So
but that should be a plus to your business.
It is.
Be able to supply locally.
Yes, it is a plus to our business, but it is also competition in some way, in the sense of raw material. So if there are more buyers in the market, pushes up pricing. All right. If our production is quite low and we all end up to the same regions, we all end up in Uganda or we all end up in Zambia, it has an effect of pushing up prices. We don't know how that will play out. So it is our hope that now, as we have been trying to develop local production, then that local production will continue to rise, such that such impact, such global impacts are not significant on us. All right? Yeah. I think entrepreneurship is good. So I'd encourage more people to just take the leap of faith, get into entrepreneurship, get into business. We started Ndivisi several years back, 8-9 years ago. We did not know we'd be a manufacturer. It was a hobby for some of us. But along the way, you see the impact that we create. Yeah? You see productivity. You see lives that are being impacted along the way, and it keeps you going. It keeps you encouraged. It keeps you.
The potential is still there.
The potential is still there. There's a lot more that you can do with this cake. There's a lot more that you can do with this flour. There's a lot more that you can do with this oil, but we're just barely starting. So I'd encourage more people to jump into entrepreneurship. Africa still needs to feed itself. Yeah? We do not only want to import, we need to be self-sufficient. There are certain things you cannot skip. For example, some of these Western countries went through an industrial revolution. But before that industrial revolution, they had an agrarian revolution. So we as a country, we as a continent cannot skip agri-industrialization. It has to be as brick and mortar as it can be. You cannot bring in tech fully in food production. So there are certain aspects that have to be brick and mortar. There have to be brick and mortar like what we are doing. You cannot skip those. And if you skip it, you will always be reliant on imports. So we are trying to undo the narrative of importation of food by being self-reliant. So we'll encourage others to come up. Not only in soya, there are so many other sectors that we could be self-sufficient. Yeah. So we hope others will come up based out of the journey that we've been through. Yeah.